I've my brain just telling me it's very hard to explain. It's just like you get suicidal ideation, and then you can't. My brain just can't really. I can go through the motions, but at its worst, it was like I remember going to the beach in early July, and when I got in the water, I started to feel better, but then like an hour later, in a very depressed mood again, and I could not shake those thoughts or feelings of hopelessness. So I'm finally recovering after a fucked up pursuit of rap, and my parents and psychiatrists they were correct in that. I guess they had a right to be scared. I felt like they overreacted to the grandiosity and those very, 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 very high hopes of being a household name. I mean, they were scared, and right around the time, I guess what inspired me right after I discovered this quote again, and what inspired me to release it was I was in a very bad place just a week ago when I was in Houston. I didn't have a job, and I gave up on the rapping in early July. But I looked up. My therapist brought up narcissism. He said because of your narcissistic tendencies, you need to check yourself, or you need to do this because of your narcissistic tendencies. And I'm like, I was listening to him. I didn't react, but I was thinking about. As soon as he said that, I thought, wait, am I still a narcissist? Are we still talking about this? But narcissists are this way, and narcissists are like Trump, and I'm not like Trump. Why is this? So I looked that up, which is probably a very bad idea. I was in a shitty place. And to look up that and I went on Wikipedia and looked up narcissistic personality disorder, and I started to see that the symptoms, I had a lot of them. So, fuck me. And the symptoms are, I think it's a good sign. I can't even remember it because looking that up was an absolute nightmare. I wasn't sleeping well. I was trying to go off my medicine, for sleep, and I probably should have played it safe. Instead, I played it too risky, and I didn't take them. Now I'm taking my sleep medicine again. But medication aside, I learned that narcissistic personality disorder is not treated with psychotherapy or medication. And that just threw me off a fucking cliff. I mean, I was just devastated when I heard that. But also, like, I agreed with it. I accepted it, and I'm thinking, man, why did I go to so many psychiatrists? Why did they put me on medicine if they should have known better because I'm a narcissist? That this shit is not working. And so I've been able to summarize that therapy over these fucking 10, 12 years, all therapy has done is jerked off my ego. It's just caused me to be maybe even more narcissistic. Because you're talking about as the patient, you're talking about me. We're talking about me the whole fucking time. There is no back and forth 50-50 exchange like you have with your friends and your family. Maybe your family is a little more. My parents are thoughtful enough to ask. They're not that narcissistic. Maybe a little bit. That's a topic for another day. But parents do ask about me, and they're focused on me, which may be a problem. But usually with my friends, it's less emotional, right? And we're just like, how's your day? Oh, it went well. How was your day? And just this back and forth, which is very, very healthy, right? But therapy is just all, for some sessions, it felt like an attack on me. And it just heightened my narcissism. And so I did come across the quote maybe 2 weeks ago, and I went, oh yeah, I got to put this on the podcast. So that's my sob story. Let me discuss. I thought I'd tell you what the play about and how relevant it is today, and how one could actually do a modern remake of it, because it's very interesting. Of course, I find it interesting because it has this quote in it, right? And I went on Wikipedia, as I do, and I looked up the cocktail party. And by the way, T.S. Eliot, very famous writer from the 1900s. I'll read these first couple paragraphs. The Cocktail Party is a play by T.S. Eliot. Elements of the play are based on Alcestis, which I've never read, by the ancient Greek playwright Euripides. The play was the most popular of Eliot's 7 plays in his lifetime, although his 1935 play Murder in the Cathedral is better remembered today. Get this. It was written while Eliot was a visiting scholar at the Institute for Advanced Study in Princeton, New Jersey, in 1948. Guess where I'm from? I'm from Princeton, New Jersey. So he wrote it in my hometown. Of course, 40 years before I was born, he wrote it in what would become my birthplace and hometown. So I like to think that there was meaning there, that he wrote it for me. Although I have to read it. But here's the premise. The Cocktail Party was first performed at the Edinburgh Festival in 1949. And then I'm going to skip a little bit. The play starts out seeming to be a light satire of the traditional British drawing room comedy, whatever that means. Drawing room comedy, I don't know. As it progresses, however, the work becomes a darker philosophical treatment of human relations. As in many of Eliot's works, the play uses absurdist elements to expose the isolation of the human condition. Very, very relevant now that we're all isolated with the fucking quarantine. Fuck the quarantine, okay? In another recurring theme of Eliot's plays, the Christian martyrdom of the mistress character is seen as a sacrifice that permits the predominantly secular life of the community to continue. Not that interesting to me, that part. But the synopsis really got me going. Here we go. Edward and Lavinia Chamberlain? Edward and Lavinia Chamberlain, they're British, are separated after 5 years of marriage. She has left Edward just as they are about to host a cocktail party at their London home. And he has to come up with an explanation for why Lavinia is not present in order to keep up social appearances. Lavinia is brought back by a mysterious unidentified guest at the party who turns out to be a psychiatrist whom Edward and Lavinia both consult. They each learn that they have been deceiving themselves and must face life's realities. They learn that their life together, though hollow and superficial, is preferable to life apart. This message is difficult for the play's third main character, Edward's mistress, to accept. Sorry for the spoiler alert, by the way. She, with the psychiatrist's urging, also moves on towards a life of greater honesty and salvation, becomes a Christian martyr in Africa. 2 years later, Edward and Lavinia, now better adjusted, host another cocktail party. Great premise, great synopsis. I would definitely read that in a heartbeat. Now, what I would really like to see is like a modern remake of that, where and don't steal this, by the way, you fucking bastards. I would absolutely love to see a modern remake of this where there's some kind of conflict between, like, are they Facebook official? A couple that maybe is in the midst of a divorce, but they're hosting a party, and on Facebook they're married, but in real life they've been separated. But there's so many important people coming to the party that they can't cancel it. Say they're hosting not the king and queen. It would be the king and queen in this play, but in the modern remake, maybe they're hosting some celebrities, and they don't want to cancel it, and they have to keep up appearances. That would be very interesting, and that's why I find the quote so interesting. The quote is from Act 1, Scene 1, and now I kind of wish I read it before releasing this episode, but I feel like I already have a good idea of the quote's message, of its use in the play. And it's aptly called The Cocktail Party. So, God bless this quote, and I'm lucky that that I found it. Again, half the harm that is done in this world is due to people who want to feel important. They don't mean to do harm, but the harm does not interest them, or they do not see it, or they justify it because they are absorbed in the endless struggle to think well of themselves. Maybe this quote, ironically, helped me see it. Because according to the quote, the narcissists, the people who want to feel important, do not see it. And I know plenty of those people. I know plenty of them who just don't have the awareness. And it comes out. But for me, I'm lucky to have the insight to be like, oh, okay, I could see how these goals I have are unrealistic and they're just going to leave me even more hurt and more narcissistic. And let me just say, I don't feel like I'm that typical narcissist. I just have very big, grandiose hopes and dreams, and there is an issue where, like lately, I've been looking at my golf swing a lot, and golf, by the way, it's like there's no game except maybe poker where you can learn more about yourself. Golf is like a complete metaphor for life. And so when you look at the swing, to me, I look at that, your swing, as like my ego. And so looking at my swing is kind of like going to therapy, where I'm looking at who I am. And my swing, as soon as I look at it, I'm like, oh, that's weird. It's almost like, it's like hearing your voice back from a recording. Or looking at yourself in the mirror with maybe weird lighting, and you're like, wait, that's not how I thought I looked. You know, you ever get to that moment where you're like, it's like an ego. It's like what Freud said. I think what happens when you're 18 months old, you look at yourself in the mirror, and that's when your ego begins. Is when you realize you're a person. You know, that point of view, that first point of view, which is what we naturally have, gets meta. You know, there's another layer there where you realize, like, I'm a fucking entity. I'm an entity. I exist, and here's my body, and then not too long after, you realize there are other people, and you realize they have thoughts just like, not exactly the same, but they have thoughts. Just like you have thoughts. Your thoughts are very different, can be very different, but everyone has thoughts. And then you hit puberty, and the fun and games are over, and then that's when comparison kicks in, and status, and this desire for money, and that's probably when my personality started to go haywire, right around 19 or 20 years old, when I wanted to play football. And I think all of this, what all of this means is that most of the harm that is done is we do to ourselves. You know, I didn't fuck with anyone when I was trying to play football, just myself. I was just trying to prove something to myself, and I was barking up the wrong tree. You know, I was just maybe bored, but maybe unhappy with just being my goddamn self. I needed to be a football star to feel important. So that's my moral for today. Half the harm that is done in this world is due to people who want to feel important. They don't mean to do harm, but the harm does not interest them. Or they do not see it. Or they justify it because they are absorbed in the endless struggle to think well of themselves. Our brains, unfortunately, are wired. Mine certainly is. It can be wired to go in this endless struggle to kind of deny who we truly, vulnerably are. You know, our fucking flawed selves. And yeah, I'll be the first